Good evening. You're listening live to the Extreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob, broadcasting to you, of course, from the secret location on the Pine Hills Palace. That, of course, is the Extreme Studios just west of Orlando, Florida. I have here on my old school analog, I guess, RDV signal because, I'm going back to where we're doing Morse code. I'm not going to get into the women's, scientific bit of the encryption stuff for World War II, but we're going back in time here, ladies and gentlemen, to talk about the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. I guess it's kind of sort of a Guy Ritchie film, which we're going to get into. And this is something that just came out recently. RDV, I know you and I was the first watching it. I just got done. I got to admit, I'm going to need a little slap upside the head maybe by some of the people that are starting to come into the audience because I'm going to make a confession here. I didn't hate it. I don't like it. Some stuff I really like. Stuff I thought is really stupid. But every Guy Ritchie film, I see the exact same thing. So I'm missing something. I just don't get it. And I hope I'm able to figure that out because there's, like I say, some interesting things to like in here and all that too. So it's not a bad film. It's just I don't know what kind of film it is. Does that make sense?
It's an Inglourious Basterds film, British style. That's what it is.
I guess, but it's just part of the thing because some of the brutality in here is just disgusting, and I like it. And but I feel like it's that kind of film all the way through, so it's weird.
When I read a comment by a snowflake, it says, "Oh my gosh." It's like, they're just laughing while they're killing people. Like, they're killing the bad guys and we're the good guys. So it's okay. Blah, blah, blah. He gives it a 5-star. And like, dude, I had fun with this movie going into it. I was kind of like leery, but as soon as I heard it was Guy Ritchie and it's based off the actual true events that happened,
Allegedly.
Off the journals, the 2016, the journals that basically that Winston Churchill had written, war logs. They're based off of real characters. The parts with as far as with Eiza González, I don't know how much those were far-fetched, but she actually was part of the team. She was the first woman on the team with them. Obviously, like the guy who plays Anders, Richardson's character, wasn't as tall and jacked as he is, and stuff. But,
sure, of course.
Because in the movie, they actually show the credits. They show you photos of actually the people, the real people.
Yeah.
And I just liked it because, it just felt like I was watching, it felt like a Guy Ritchie movie. It felt in the same humor of you're watching Snatch, or you're just watching Smoke Stocking and Two Guns and Smoke Stocking Barrels. So it had the humor in here, but it also had the seriousness too. And honestly, and this main character is who James Bond is based off of, Henry Cavill's character. Mm-hmm. So he even gets a moment to shine.
Ian Fleming in this.
Well, no, he's not Ian.
Or
Fleming.
He's not
Ian Fleming. Ian Fleming is in this movie.
Yes, character. That's the Superman guy. Yeah.
Henry Cavill is who he basically the main guy. He basically was inspired to write James Bond based off of. And honestly, when those two get to meet, Churchill, Cary is awesome. Cary Hughes I love him in his character in here. He just plays M. For those who are basically into James Bond, M is always the person that basically Bond would report to. So when Cavill comes in, the first time you meet him, he's grabbing a cigar, he's pocketing a lighter, he's behind Fleming who doesn't even notice, and the cigarettes. I like it. He's got that kind of a charm thing, and he drags the chair along. That felt like a Bond scene to me a little bit, the way they wrote it a little bit. So I'm kind of in that camp now. I can see Henry Cavill playing the next Bond if they went for a manly route. But overall, I thought this was great. Everybody played their role perfectly. Even Till Schweiger. Till Schweiger steals the scenes for me in this movie.
You think so?
Yeah, he played the same role he played in Inglourious Basterds. He plays the evil Nazi in this. And his little tangle between him and Eiza González, her pretending to be another German, trying to swindle him, and keep him occupied. So basically, they could steal. Or the original point was they have it's Operation Postman, which is a real event that Chamberlain Churchill, sorry, not Chamberlain. You want to say Chamberlain? Churchill actually basically put together behind Parliament's back because Parliament wanted to surrender to the Nazis after being bombarded, by the constant bombing. And so their whole goal was they're supposed to go into this port off of Africa that that the Nazis controlled, and they wanted to. They had basically basically the Nazis at the time had these U-boats. The U-boats basically cut off everybody, all the supply chains, food coming in and going out to Britain, and their goal was to go and sink these two cruise ships, or we call them these liners. And it was kind of like interesting because I was like, okay, that basically simple. And I like how at the end they changed it. The days they had to steal these things, which was kind of crazy. And it kind of it gives Anthony Draven, hello, brings up Man from U.N.C.L.E. It kind of reminded me of a little bit of that, how his character was in that too as well. Just when things go well until they don't go well. So I thoroughly enjoyed the movie. I had no problem with it. It was 2 hours. I felt that was a little long, but it's okay. I was having fun with it. Now, for those who didn't like it off the bat, you were in for a long movie.
Well, yeah, and that's one of my issues with the film. So it's very good looking. Alan Ritchson, who we know as Reacher, even though I thought season 2 of Reacher really fell short, is still enjoyable. I'm looking forward to season 3. He's a jacked, good-looking guy. Obviously, he's gotten really political lately. I don't know if that turns people off or not or what, but I thought the opening gambit with the Nazis coming on board was great when he's got the accent and they're laughing at each other. I thought, okay, this is working for me. I thought, okay, are they trying to be serious here? Or because they're kind of goofy and they're Nazis, right? So they're bad guys. But when you look at them, when Rickson's character is like, oh, you're the small one, ha, 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 laughing about the Nazis, I'm like, yeah, these guys are not terrifying. They're like Christoph Waltz. Everybody tells me what a great actor he is. Maybe he is. But he's got 0% terror in him. These Nazis are nothing but like cartoon characters to me. So I'm like, okay. And the guy gives a speech about how we, tortured the guy that, he let swim to shore after he got burned and all that, put a bullet between his head and he laughed. And of course, that's a sign for we're going to kill all you Nazis. I didn't have a problem with the way they killed him. And it was actually extremely violent. I thought, okay, is this supposed to be cute or is it supposed to be violent? And there's an element of that with some of the British films like Guy Ritchie's and a few others that I look at and I go, maybe this is a British thing. I don't get it because I'm certainly not turned off by it. And I really like Rickson's. He actually, like I like to always complain about people that have knives in movies. They don't hold them the right way when they're fighting. They like reach out and stab you. He's got it the other way and he's hitting you really quick. I thought that was kind of cool. And I thought, it makes sense that you've got silencers on these gun suppressors, right? Yeah. And then, of course, when they dump all the Nazis off, and then they're trying to use the dead body to signal to the other boat, and then they're starting to range find, and then the guy comes in from the water that you don't even see, saying, "Yeah, it should blow up about now." I'm like, okay, this is okay. I like this. But then when they're not doing stuff together on screen, and the lady's out there doing her spy stuff with the other dude, I'm just going to say this. She's a smoke show. She was in the From Dusk Till Dawn, the TV show. Tremendous bad girl. Great looking in here. I'm just not feeling it with her and this other dude doing the spy stuff. If you're going to be an action movie, be an action movie. If you're going to be a spy movie, it's hard to do both because here it's like there was almost 2 sets of stuff. And to your point, it is a long film and it feels long when you're watching it. But when the action's going on, it's pretty good. I think this would have benefited from just saying, let's just lean into the action a bit more, a little less of the spy stuff. Because when they're on the boat and they're figuring out what they're doing, that's great. And also, I want to talk about Churchill for a moment. That actor, Rory Kinnear, is sneaky good. This is the guy that was in Penny Dreadful, playing the creature. He's been in James Bond movies as a side character that you notice. But he's damn good, and he's damn good at Churchill. And you're right. Some of the scenes at the beginning when they're together, you're like, that's what I want to see. Off British offices, people smoking cigars, having tea, talking in a gravelly voice about what you're going to do. And you're going to, if you get caught, you're going to die. And God forbid the Nazis get you and all that stuff. That's cool shit. And I thought it was going to be a little tongue-in-cheek with Henry Cavill's character, Ian Fleming, who is the author of James Bond, who had a relationship with Christopher Lee at some point because Christopher Lee was in another agency at the time. So the whole idea of the James Bond character came from Ian Fleming's stuff. So at first I thought, okay, are they going to be goofy about it or are they going to treat this somewhat seriously? And I kind of like what they did here because, again, how much of this is fiction, how much of it's stretched a little bit, I don't really care. It feels like a really good period piece and the sets are fantastic. And it's been a while since we've seen something like this. Yeah, that's just some of my initial thoughts of what I saw in the first act that kind of got me going. And when they actually started talking about the plan, it's like, okay, this is simple storytelling.
And
It's effective. It works.
so they're where they're on the port of Africa there, and the other gun guy basically like entertaining his club. I got like Casablanca vibes a little bit too, because their port was basically under Nazi control.
Yep.
He had the nice bar. He had their plan was to have this gentleman here. I think it's Heron or whatever it was, Heron or anyway. He's African over. We're gonna have him basically occupy throw through two giant parties. That way the British could sneak in there, either destroy the ships or first, but then they had problems, And honestly, guess this guy is he basically introduced what's her name, Eiza into to Schweiger on the train. I love the scene on the train where they're riding, and because they basically at first I like, okay, what's this guy? Well, all I know is that he's got some bars and that's about it. And he's basically accompanying her on the train because at that time then too, because the Nazis looked down on blacks. Blacks were basically subservient. They were racist. They didn't care. They didn't care if you're Jewish or black or Spanish or whatever. If you're not German, you're inferior. And so basically they're on the train, and then their whole goal is basically to steal these plans, or at least this briefcase that these four drunk German Nazi soldiers are having a good time. She walks with her suitcase, drops her larger suitcase down there, and picks up the smaller suitcase. I always love that when I see the movies.
Yeah, the old switcheroo, kind of, sort of.
And then she's going to carry a suitcase, and then this one German officer stands like, and confronts her, and he's like, "Oh, you're like, oh crap, did she get caught?" And he's like, "No, a woman should never have to carry her suitcase." So the other guy that she was with,
as long as a gentleman is present,
that guy quickly runs up behind her and basically picks up her suitcase for her, and they go in the back room. He whips out his own suitcase, the big he has, and inside is basically like their telegraph they have. So
that's kind of cool to see, see all these old school things, because I think young people watch this go, what the hell are they doing? I get that they're communicating, but what is that?
Yeah, they're Morse code. They're tap. I love that. And then she's written out the plans, because basically these two ships were basically suppliers for all the Nazi U-boats. They didn't know where they were and how long they're going to be there. So they of course, this is scenes you'd see where they go back, they talk to the office, over back in England, right? And Carrio's team. Meanwhile, Carrio's, has their own problem. They have a mole in their team they don't know about, which is going to come back and bite them in the ass later on.
The dreaded mole.
Yes. And so anyway, so these guys they're Henry Cavill's team are on it. They're still on a ship. They're heading to the port, and they have no idea what's going on. Only when they receive their own Morse code, so basically, while this is all going on, eventually, Schweiger's introduced later on at the actual port where these guys are supposed to go meet up with them, so when she's introduced to him, like I said, you can tell right away he is not a nice guy. You see him she's escorted by, I gotta look up his name. Is it Heron or her?
Heron, I think.
Heron.
Yeah.
So basically, they're walking through on the port, the Nazis there and stuff, and they end up coming across, like you see in the room. They look over and you see Till Schweiger walking out, hands covered in blood. He's laughing, and stuff. And then you walk and you see this naked black person basically that he just murdered, tortured, shackled, and beat him up. This guy's a sick fuck. He's a high-ranking German official, like SS. And and that's true history. Those guys were the worst. The ones who were the officers. They're the ones who were in charge, had more power, less control. And Heron, played by Babs Olusanmokun. I can't remember pronounce his name. But anyway, so you already introduced to him. I thought it was a badass way to introduce to him, to Til Schweiger's character. And then she's supposed to go and seduce him, and she doesn't really want to, because we learn about her. Each of them have their own backstory. Yep. Like her character, she plays plays Marjorie Stewart. Her mother and sister were killed by Germans because they were trying to help other Jewish people get out of Germany and stuff. And so she's Jewish herself too. So she's German Jewish. So she basically wants to nothing to do with this guy. But we learn that she can handle herself. She can fire a gun. And I thought that was kind of cool. They actually showed that, because why would she be on a team if she can't? Other than just be eye candy. She can take care of herself to a point. The other characters, Anders, Alan Rich's character, like they joke about him, like how he's like, this guy's unhinged, but like because basically Henry Cavill is allowed to point his own team. He told the British, I need these guys. I need they're all play their parts. I need my frogman.
Give me the tools, the resources I need for my job, and get out of my way.
I need Freddie. Basically, I need Freddie, my frogman. Freddie Alvarez. Basically, he does blowing up stuff. If he's not blowing up stuff, he's disturbed. So he's great at what he does, blowing up. So you see him on the cover on the left there. Anders, who basically just loves killing Nazis because his brother, who was killed by his father were killed by Nazis. So he just wants to just kill Nazis and he just enjoys it. He's kind of like the Thor of the group.
Let me ask you this. So here's the thing with Nazis. Obviously, we're going on roughly close to 90 years of some form of communism or whatever that got it warped and adopted into Germany and started spreading across Europe. There in certain places and all that. It of course still exists in some forms today. Mm-hmm. So, do you think? I don't really care if Nazis are being used as bad guys, but do you feel like in a movie like this, I'm going, I get they're supposed to be the bad guys. A lot of older people will go, yeah, they're the bad guys. But do you just feel like it's overused? I mean, I know this is an Ian Fleming story, so it's got to deal with Nazis and all that. But
it's a period piece.
And I think they've like Inglourious Bastards, right? That's a cutesy kind of movie, kind of fun. It might be violent or whatever, but you're not terrified of Nazis. It's fun to beat up on Nazis and treat them cool. And I think in a way they've gotten so watered down as bad guys. It's like, come on, it has to be that way in this film. But the opening Nazis that we see, they're laughable. But then to your point, when we see the torture guy and they say, hey, this is the reason why we're here. You've got to get this guy. And you're like, okay. And then the leader there too, who dresses up in the Roman centurion armor later.
Schweiger's character.
He was not bad. I'm like, okay. So you're starting to feel like, okay, again, we've said before, it's when people are doing stuff, that's great. But if you don't feel what the threat is, how much have they really accomplished?
And to your point, as far as the German officers, not all of them were scared, were intimidating, because and you have the short guys like this, who were only reason they were scary is because they had people doing their work for them.
Sure,
they're those kind of assholes. And Till Schweiger was the real one who didn't need anybody to do shit for him. He did it himself. So I mean, him being the big bad guy. So I mean, I don't think they're overused. I just think that they actually were. In this movie, it was supposed to be like a tongue-in-cheek movie.
Yeah, but violence is like, you go tongue-in-cheek, but then you go that kind of violent. I'm like, man, if they just stuck with a more serious tone and violence, they would have knocked out of the park, because the scenes and everything else really felt like they supported that. And
that's why I say, like, they're not going for like a Band of Brothers. They're not going for what was the other one we watched? Oh crap! The one where they stormed with Tom Hanks, where they stormed the beaches in Normandy, and the guy who just recently died, the actor, was in that too. They had a bunch of them in there. I forget what it's called. My mind is just.
That's fine. Tom Hanks again doesn't install anything.
No, but the movie, it was a serious movie about them going saving Private Ryan.
Right.
This isn't a serious movie. It's a tongue-in-cheek movie, like Inglourious Bastards. It had been one of those, it'd be an entirely different movie. I agree. But this kind of kept it kind of lighthearted. This kind of felt like, for me, when I was playing Call of Duty, or not Call of Duty, but Medal of Honor, back in the day. Because I love it because Henry Cavill, basically, like, he's one of those guys. He wants something, he takes it. He's like, I get myself one of those German officers' codes where they're going to basically break what's his name out of jail, Alex Pettyfer's character, Appleyard, because he'd been cut. He's basically their plaster guy. He's like their Hannibal. They need to get him out of this prison, so they go in there and they each take turns, doing stuff. Everybody plays their part. And I love Alan Rickman's character because he basically does not only does he use the knife play, but he also just uses bow and arrows.
That was interesting, characterized because we don't see that too often. And I'd mentioned
Yeah.
before what was cool in some of the more recent movies. We have the martial arts that we've been doing, Lady Whirlwind and such. We've been seeing period pieces where people are having the really long cigarette holders. We get that. We get
Yes.
Winston Churchill's torpedoes, which looked a little on the small side, but whatever. I'm no history buff, but I'd like somebody to look into that for me. And then you see Alan Ritchson, you're like, this guy's a badass with a knife, and he's jacked as fuck, but it's not about him beating the crap out of people with his body. And then he brings out the bow, because the best action scene to me was when they do the assault on the Nazi fort in the Canary Islands as they're getting ready to go find these 3 boats. Because to your point, the whole logistical thing that is explained well in this movie is the fact that, these U-boats that the Germans have are like silent killers. They're really screwing us up. So we're losing. It's asymmetric warfare. If you spend $1 million destroying something theirs that costs $10,000, you're going to run out of resources. In this case, money or whatever.
Yeah.
So their idea is to not go after the U-boats, but to go after the boats that support them. That'll create a drain on them, and then the United States allegedly will see that the tides are turning, and then they will join us in the front for it. So I kind of liked how they kept it simple, easy enough to follow. And we understand, okay, I don't know where all these things are at, but they give us the Indiana Jones maps, right? So they show them in outside of international waters, outside of Nigeria and in Africa, then here. So that's cool. It feels like an adventure movie. And so adventure action, I thought would have been great.
Yeah, I love the part. Except where they're going to rescue Appleyard. Appleyard there. I mean, the rest of the guys are all kind of like binoculars laying down. 2 German guards, spot them up on the hill. And basically,
they just die with arrows. You're like, what happened?
The one guy says, like, what happened? Like, I think they're hit by an arrow, but where's the arrow? In the tree. It went right through him, because that's how freaking jacked he's able to pull it, and it goes right through the guys. So then their original plan was to go in and get Appleyard, but then these 2 high-ranking German officers show up, and basically it's just, so they can't go at night now, so they have to get in there before Appleyard gets tortured to death, or taken away. And so they forced to go in there, and it's like, we'll be stealthy, we'll be silent, and then Alan Richards' character just runs off, well, roll this fuck off and do what we want to do. I love how Cavill says that. It's like, okay, and they take out each of them, they split up, do their own things, and just taking out the guards. I love them. They just, tossing grenades, use bow and arrows, just coming in, just shooting people. Cavill's just having fun, just murdering Nazis. I kind of like his little smirk. I mean, they're all a little mad, and that's the thing about this. These guys were not afraid.
Madness isn't supposed to be cute.
Honestly, though, and as Churchill says, I'd rather have the madman doing these missions. Because this is the first Black Ops team.
No.
Yeah.
No. They've been around since forever. Yeah.
Which inspired more of the British's Black Ops MI6 stuff. This is their first team that they did.
Well, here's the thing too, because in this, I believe it's this scene here where they're doing the assault and they're able to take a lot of people out before everybody notices and everything. So it's pretty brutal. There's a good action sequence with Rickson's character when he gets into the control center and all that too. But when they rescue the one guy that's being electrocuted, I'm like, okay, is this supposed to be funny? Because like electrocution back in the day was usually to the testicles or to the nipples or other stuff like that. It was disgusting and gross. I don't know. Outside of 1 or 2, maybe there's a Bronson movie and another movie I can think of where you're like, no, this is dark shit, and it looks like it. And that's how it should be treated. This guy's got the electrodes on his nipples, and he makes a comment, "Hey guys, can you turn it off? The battery's still on." It's like, okay, is that supposed to be funny? And because again, Rickson's character goes nuts and ape shit, and we see more of this later on. But is it me, or do you remember the fact that he cut open a Nazi to rip his heart out?
Yeah, and he says later on, I'm gonna get 20 of them, and they also kind of like one guy, they react to it differently. The frogman's like, oh, what the hell, and the other one, and Cavill's just like, well, that's who he is. He's Anderson. This is the guy who basically wrestled a bear, in his woods where he lives, and
I think have seen some of these other British type movies. Like you've seen more of the Guy Ritchies. You've seen was it The Kingsmen and some other things too?
Yeah. So,
all these seem like they're the same film, or am I wrong?
They have the same sense of British humor.
Okay.
And that's okay with this. When you watch the Jason Statham movies, you have the same thing. Crank, or you watch what was it? There's another one he did too.
Transporter.
Transporter. I think there was another one after that. Like forgot what it's called. Those, but anyway, I don't mind the slight dark comedy, action, thing.
Not after ripping a guy's heart out.
Yeah, no, I had no issues with that.
Okay.
But then again, I don't watch horror movies like you do, so but I question. You're squeamish about this, but you'll watch like somebody get their a knife through the back of the head,
Well, no. For example, we've talked about, for example, here on the Extreme Movie Show, when we don't do horror movies, we talked a little bit about like Bruce Campbell, right?
Yeah,
and we've talked about how the first movies are kind of a little bit darker, and you'd made that comment because a lot of people think of him as being a wisecracking kind of guy, and so there's that tongue-in-cheek kind of humor, and that's what you get, even though there's some dopey violence that you don't take seriously. It's not like here where you're like, again, if they eliminated the cheekiness, the British humor kind of stuff in these things, and they went more action, you'd be like, yeah, fuck yeah, this is what the Expendables should have turned into, right? And that's the thing that leaves me wanting with some of these movies. It's like, I don't know if it's the Kingsman, the one where they've got the umbrella or whatever. And I remember I just see this one scene because I haven't seen the movie. This one guy that looks like he's a nobody and he does all this stuff. I'm like, okay, I guess that's cool, but this guy's not intimidating to me, so I wouldn't care if he stabs me with the umbrella point. It's not one way or the other. It's kind of like they're trying to put both in, and it's like it just, to me, it doesn't work. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not hating on it, but when I'm seeing them do the island assault here, I'm like, hey, this is kind of good, but then they ruin it, with a little bit of humor.
See, I disagree. I love the humor, and it's
okay.
Otherwise, if it was just straight up no humor and him just ripping out more hearts for the rest of the movie, that would be the thing.
That would be funny, though. You're
right. Now you laugh at that. But Cavill's character, I just like him throughout the whole entire movie. He's just kind of casual. He's kind of like the guy's got the James Bondish kind of humor, so it fits. And in real life, actually, the actual Margaret and Gustav actually married after the war.
Yeah.
So, but they don't show any romance in the movie though. They kind of flirts. He's like when he comes to rescue, he's like always overdressed and underdressed somehow. It's just, he kind of makes fun of her. But I just love his character in this, and yeah, you are right. You guys listen to in the chat that how Alan Ritchson kind of dwarfs him.
Did you see that, or was that me?
I know it kind of he does. Alan Ritchson's still working out, where he buffing himself up. Where Cavill is kind of like he's not where he was with Superman. Superman, he was much more built, but since he's not that role anymore, he's kind of let himself slim down more.
I know Alan Ritchson says again, how much do you believe this? And all that he's gotten up to about 230, 235 for the second season of Reacher, and we'd comment on that because he admits to being on testosterone. He's an athlete. He's been working out for a long time, so I respect him for being open about being on hormone replacement therapy and all that, like Stallone has, and Mel Gibson, a lot of other guys too. Tons of them have. I've got zero problems with that. When I see him in this film, though, I'm like, holy crap, this dude, looks incredible. And Cavill, to your point, is no slouch. And Mariah's comment about kind of looking like an everyman, well, their physiques are just wildly different, aren't they? Cavill's kind of more that slim, I mean, he's more of the pudgy kind of like skinny fat kind of guy. I guess he could be, but he obviously breaks out. But you look at Ritchson and I'm like, who's the star of this film? Because Cavill, I thought, did a good job of not dominating the scene. Everybody kind of blends in a little bit, even though he's like the main lead. But Ritchson's character was so kind of unique and creative with his accent, his laughing, the bow and arrow. I thought, this is the character that's the most interesting to me out of everybody in the film.
So Ritchson, to me, it's funny you bring up Expendables. He's like the Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah. The elite physical specimen.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I gotta say, I like the Expendables. Everything started going downhill as they go in 2, 3, 4, or whatever they're on now.
Yep.
This being a younger cast is a better Expendables movie to me. But honestly, I like World War II. I like seeing they using authentic as far as the gear, as far as even the ships, how they're arranged, and the guns. I love the silencers. Did you notice the little handguns, the PPKs?
Yep.
I love it.
Yep.
So then, just like I said, the whole team, and even Applewood was kind of like, he's just kind of like the master planner guy, but he's like, but then their whole plan was to go steal the boats. And he's like, and then when they finally worked, the guy looks at him, he's like, "What? You didn't actually think that plan was actually going to work? That was fucking bullshit plan.
Yeah.
So I love it. And I love there's a scene in there where I think it's Applewood. Was he? Yeah, he was in the ship with Ritchson character, and they're shooting up the guys. Him and one of the other guys, because they met this prince near basically like he's one of the pirates. Who is another guy? It's what is it? Camberley Kalu plays Danny Sapani, and they basically make a deal with him basically to need more men because and they go, so he gives them some of his men, and they're in the ship and they're.
Are you saying he rented a boat full of African Americans?
He did not rent. They made a deal.
Okay. Okay.
And honestly, that guy when I first saw him, I'm like, oh, he kind of reminded me of the actor who recently played James Gordon in the Batman film.
He has charisma. Whoever that actor is, I don't know him.
No,
he reminds me of the best Felix Leiter, which is the one that they killed off in the last James Bond movie, played by that one guy whose name escapes me. He's
also from Penny Dreadful. He was he was Benny.
Gotcha. That's why. No, he's good. You're like, this is a cool dude. You know, he's just not some pirate bum.
And he's been in Black Panther, both movies. Oxford Murderers, Trance was another one he's in. But yeah, that was recently. It was in the show Halo.
Got it.
A horrible show, but he was good acting. That's the thing. That sucks about some of these things. You'll have a good actor in a crappy show.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And supporting. But anyway, so yeah, a group of guys go in there and they go into the actual Nazi U-boats because they're basically gonna plant bombs in there. So basically that the Germans can't follow the U-boats when they steal the liner. And so they're going in there and they see these guys there and they're looking and they kill a bunch of guys. He locks the door so they can't get out. But then, as there more guys come out from other Germans come out, they start killing them. And then he looks at the porthole window where he locked where the Germans were there, and you see on Rickson's character just going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, he's got the fire axe and he's walloping the shit out of people. And this is brutal. I love it, but again, it's not funny.
Oh, I'm laughing my ass off because
it's a compliment for how well they're portraying the violence, and that's my whole point. Yeah. If you're slapstick about it or whatever, and you know that's what's supposed to be, that's okay. But here, you're looking at it, and I thought, okay, that they don't have the sound playing. You see him just going to town. I'm like, damn it! Why didn't they just lean into this? It would be more. Yeah,
I had a feeling when the title says Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, that's a tongue-in-cheek title.
Yeah, that's British. I get it.
So, and just having seen Operation Fortune with Cary Hughes, I had a feeling that this is going to be another one of those movies. And I honestly, then if I was looking at this, I was expecting a very serious portrayal movie of World War II and stuff. Yeah, then I'd be pissed. But nowadays, you really don't get a serious portrayal unless it's like 1912 or 1917. Yeah, you're not. It's a Guy Ritchie movie. Guy Ritchie doesn't do very serious. He does more a little slapstick, So overall, I thought this was a fun, enjoyable movie. 2 hours. Is $20 the rent or the own or something on Vudu right now, Fandango. It's also in theaters right now too. So if you want early access, you can go to Vudu, Fandango, where it's called now. And you can pay $20 there to rent it just to watch it, or you can pay $25 to own it digitally. I would recommend just going to the theater and watching it, and I had fun with it.
I think it's one of those movies that actually would benefit from seeing the theater because it does feel like a big movie, which is a positive. Mm-hmm. I want to talk a little bit about the third act because you mentioned something earlier that made me think about it. Typically, the third acts of James Bond films are all exactly the same, and I don't care for them, and ends up devolving into a simplistic shootout with a bunch of people and buys, and it's boring and it's not cool. And here, even though Smoke shows up there, she's doing a nightclub lounge act. What I liked is how they took her and the dudes kind of action sequence along with them, going on there. And to your point where they're having to deal with the boats differently, and now they converge them because they normally it's the other way around where you don't get that where it's simple. Here I liked it because she's doing the dance number, she's doing sexy.
She's singing Mac the Knife.
Well, it's a horribly fake looking at it, but she's up there in the gown and shaking her booty and all that stuff, but she slips a line in there because they've got the subtitles, and the main guy that's in the Centurion armor or whatever like that, he just leans over to his number two guy and he's like,
Schweiger.
he goes, she said blah blah blah.
She said
Yiddish. She's a Jew, so they know the jig is up. They know they've been seduced, so they're on to her, right? So that was kind of cool. And then when they're again, I don't like it at night, but I get it in this movie. They go through and they kill a bunch of people and they get the boats and all that and they try to mirror up. I thought that was kind of a cool way to do it. It felt like a slightly better third act than we've seen in a lot of films. So I'll give it credit for doing that, because there are chunks of this movie where the pacing is just not the same as other chunks of it. And again, it's another reason, not necessarily to edit it, but again, if they just tried focusing more on either the action stuff or whatever, I think it might have better pacing, which might make it easier. Because you're right. I was going, where the fuck are we in this movie? I'm going, man, I still got an hour and 10 minutes to go. It feels like it's almost done. What the hell? Get going on it.
So I was thinking when they locked the doors, chain the doors up, I forgot that Huron had basically had hired escorts to keep the German officers or occupied inside the building. So I thought it is going to burn the building down, because he said there's oil lanterns in there.
Yep.
That's why it was still, because the whole point was to knock the power out. And Huron, I said to my point earlier, he is a very interesting character. He's not just a throwaway character. His point job was basically to plant a bomb into the actual engine room, the electrical room is there, and he ends up getting caught. And I'm like, oh shit, he's gonna die. But then he pulls out a little a pop-up gun out of his sleeve, and I'm getting flashbacks to watching Justified with Neil McDonough, and he takes out the guards 1, 2, 3, 4, and then his phone, his gun jams. He's like, oh crap. So then the other guys the other German officers reach for his gun, trying to get out, and he ends up basically Huron takes his knife and then just kills him that way.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, he's gonna bite the bullet already. I was like, dang. Because he planted the bomb was supposed to knock out the power, and they're supposed to go in. But when they find out over here at the bar that the German officer, Schweiger's character, basically reinforced the actual ship with plated armor, so it can't be sunk. So he has to quickly go run out, and then call back to the home office, and let them know that this, and then they call over to Cavill's character, and they talk on the phone there, and Cavill's like, well, what are we gonna do? He gets worried parted, so they basically realize, why don't we just steal it? That was they basically changed the middle of it lands. And it's something you would normally do. And they said, well, we can't do it. We don't have the power. We'll use their boats. Obviously, use their boats to pull it out of the harbor when they're working on it and stuff. So, so that their whole point was to steal it. I love that. So when the bomb blows up before Huron can go stop it, and then so he signals them, don't go, can't go. And so I love that. So basically, they use the flashlights for Morse code too as well.
Mm-hmm.
And just the whole scene where they're pulling the boat out, they're doing 5 miles per hour, being shot in. The prince was there. His basically Danny, his men brought mortars, around stuff. So they're firing off the boat, taking out that. Not only that, the Frogman and basically Freddy had basically planted bombs in all their anti-aircraft gun stuff. So basically and then their oil reserves, the gasoline tanks, and those started blowing up. And it was just I love it. The explosions, the pyrotechnics in this. It was actually pyrotechnics. It wasn't. Some of it was CG, but
yeah, it was more practical, and it was more of the stuff that we talked about with the sets and locations. They're very sumptuous looking at it. It's a good looking film that way. Guy Ritchie knows to kind of put that stuff in there. So no matter what you think of it, it's presented well. It's
kind of goes what kicks it back to the Blown Away at the end, how they use the blow up the building and stuff, the boat and stuff. I love that. So I love the practical effects. Everybody gets away. The girl who basically Eiza, who basically get her character basically put in shackles and left there, and until Schweiger goes leave because his boat's under attack, his port, he has to leave her, and she shows up. And later on, in the back of a car with Til Schweiger and another Nazi, and Huron sees her over there. He's like, "Oh crap! He's got to go rescue her." And he changes his outfit. He's gonna steal a tugboat. He's got a camp on stuff. He's gonna go over there, and then Schweiger's the German officer goes up to her. He's like, "Oh, it's, this is your plan all along. You were more cunning than I am. You were the whole time. You were the vixen."
Yep.
Because their whole thing they're talking about how the fox and all that stuff.
Yeah. Insert witty British crap.
Yeah. So you see, she's like, he basically is like, big old bad guy, and then she, just like you see, like if you watched, what was the last movie? I think it was Inglourious Bastards. But anyway, she has a little gun. She's hiding in her. She's stuck in the car, but she manages to basically lift a gun off somebody, and she has a little gun, and she basically fires him through the head, kills him that way. I was kind of let down for that a little bit. I was hoping he'd get like having him fighting with not Anders but with Cavill's character.
Mm-hmm.
That would be great. Had German for that, but it was cute. Whatever, it fit with the movie.
And so I'm looking at the returns. About 20 million or so right now with a 60 million budget.
I don't think
it's going to bomb.
I honestly feel like that's a lot of movies you look at. They're coming out these days. A lot of movies are bombing.
Yeah.
I think that's partially because people just would rather just wait to watch movies online. A lot of people do not go watch movies at theaters anymore.
Man, it's
they do.
This movie. Look, I'm being generous with this movie.
Yeah.
I think it's an average movie for me. I mean, honestly, and it's I'm not trying to pick on it. I didn't hate it, but and that says a lot compared to, like, to your point, a lot of stuff that comes out today is not been very good. And I know you liked it more than I did. There's something here in it. I can see it, and that's the frustrating thing to me about it, because when I see something like it where I think they could do something with it, I just want it to be more. But I don't try to penalize it because it's not. But it's just, I thought really Ritchson's character was kind of interesting, but I thought the guy that did the best job was Rory Kinnear as Churchill, who a lot of people recognize, at least in the Western world, how incredible he was. And while he was basically on top ruling everything, all the commies were sliding into Britain at the time. And one person that we don't ever talk about, there's not a lot of movies on, I keep waiting for a war movie for them to do it, would be Douglas MacArthur, and just how he basically did everything. I mean, it was just incredible. And nobody really talks about history and the effects these people have. So you just think, oh, this is the angry old guy that's getting the band together, that gets his band of merry gentlemen to do their own thing and all that. And it's kind of cute and hip, but there is a certain amount of, gravitas, or whatever the hell you want to call it, behind all those things that I think gets lost when you try to make the movie a little cute. So I thought Cavill's character was fun. I thought it was good. What I think the movie did best, though, was when they were all just kind of hanging about each other and talking, doing stuff. It's not so much this person, the frogman could do this or whatever. As a unit, they felt like they had good chemistry. That doesn't always happen. And so, again, even though I didn't really prefer the lady and the guy doing their spy stuff together, it just didn't have any chemistry for me. It still works, but it's average at best for me.
I would have loved to have more pushback against these guys. Made the German Nazis a little more,
viable
dangerous.
opponents.
Yeah. That would have been a little bit lot better. But obviously, this was the kind of stuff they're going for. They're just kind of go for the tongue-in-cheek humor.
And compared to what's out there, it's better
like
than some stuff out now.
The best way to describe this is his Expendables in World War II.
Yeah,
the British version.
A better Expendables.
I like Expendables, but I understand Expendables is not. This is better than Expendables. So basically, I believe this movie got was a 7.0 out of 10 on IMDb. I've been noticing a lot of the movies we watch, even older movies, the higher the ranking is, the better it is. But you can tell when it was like a 5 or 6, I'm kind of like, all right, let's see how this is going to go, a 5.4. And sometimes they're accurate with older movies. Now, current movies, I wonder IMDb how much is skewed, but for other
well, we all know that they're all manipulated, and a lot of it too is it's just the more interesting movies to me are the ones where the critics score and the audience scores are wildly different. There's a big delta between those two, that gap, and you see that with a lot of them, like like this film here. I think it's an average film, but a lot of the people who like a Guy Ritchie film are going to go crazy on it, right? So I mean, it's just it's whatever. It's not bad, it's not good, it's just sort of there for me. So, and I know you like it, so that's good. It's a Guy Ritchie film. So if you like Guy Ritchie films, I think it's a good Guy Ritchie film.
I'm looking at the movies he did for this, or the same year, Argyle.
I didn't see that.
Argyle looked ridiculous.
I thought so too.
Yeah, and I opted to see this. That's what I was worried about. I was like, I'm gonna watch this. Like, it's like it is some Argo. It wasn't that great, Like these trailers up, I was like, oh, it's gonna be tongue in cheek stuff. But this was actually a lot better than I thought it was gonna be. So honestly, this is the movie that I originally watched. I didn't see any trailers, but I just saw the posters stuff, and I was just like, I really don't care for this, But I'm glad that we watched it, we reviewed it. Because looking at 2024, isn't that many movies that come out that I care to see. I guess I haven't watched the new Godzilla movie, but if anybody is still watching around this mark and actually wants us to still review some of those movies, let us know. If you don't, we'll go back to martial art movies.
We got the Apes movie. We've got Late Night with the Devil. We've got Furiosa coming up. We've got a summer review of movies maybe coming up too. Yeah. Apparently there's a new Aliens movie. I'm like, oh, okay. There's some stuff worth talking about.
And then whenever Highlander comes out with Cavill.
Yeah. If and when. Any other final thoughts?
No. Other than that, I thought this was actually a one and done movie. And sadly, that's a lot of movies I watched. And even before the past 10 years, a lot of movies I will not go back and watch because they're okay. And that's really, they're now, sometimes I like sequels because I like exploring more of that universe.
This is your Saturday night special. It's your one and done. It's a hit it, quit it, and go home, and everybody's happy, and nobody says anything.
It's just your grindhouse movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Sunday night, 6 p.m. Eastern live. We will be doing Columbo season 1, episode 6, the Roddy McDowell episode. It evoked a lot of strong responses in me upon watching it, so I can't wait for that to be discussed and all that. And then 7 p.m. to be determined, we'll be going live with probably a martial arts film.
Columbo versus the Devil. Win.
Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good night. As always, stay extreme. Good night now.
Later, guys.